When we looked at Eugene's ultra-deep biosphere, we discussed how hardy microbial life can be, and we speculated that life itself may have emerged elsewhere and migrated to Earth, or that life from Earth may have migrated elsewhere. In a new study, scientists conducted a 3-year-long experiment to determine how well microbes can survive in outer space, and the results they uncovered are remarkable. Let's find out more. The hypothesis called PANSPERMIA proposes that life can be transferred to different planets. We have looked at some of these extremophiles which can survive in the harshest of conditions here on Earth. Surviving space is an altogether tougher prospect. Microbes would need some sort of shielding from the harsh radiation, otherwise their DNA and eventually cell structure would become damaged. In this paper, the scientists proposed that microbes could gain the required shielding from being encased in a thin layer of rocky material. They used dried out sub-millimeter cell pellets of a radio-resistant bacteria housed in an aluminium plate well. These were then attached to the outside of the International Space Station. They used a variety of thicknesses of the cell pellets and were looking at the effect of long exposure on the survival rate and mutations to the bacteria itself. They placed the panels outside of the International Space Station, one set inside of the space station in a controlled environment, and one on a ground-based laboratory. After 3 years, they were removed, and the results show that when the pellets are too small, so less than about 0.1 millimeter, the bacteria did not survive. When the pellets were about 0.5 millimeter or greater, they were able to survive. The DNA in the 0.1 millimeter sample were heavily damaged, and the surface color of the pellets was also changed. The internal color was unchanged, and this suggests that a shielding effect is provided by the layer of dead cells that sufficiently protected the cells underneath from UV radiation. Protection of the DNA is essential for the survival in space. There are many different types of DNA damage that can be caused by the environmental factors in space. One of the strains of bacteria that they used had some capability to self-repair some of the damage to the DNA, making its survivability even higher. Using the results, they estimate that a pellet of only 1 millimeter thickness could survive in space between 2 and 8 years, and if it was embedded in a larger rock, they estimate that this would increase to tens of years. The idea is that this short period may be enough to allow a meteor to be ejected from one planet onto the other. This is a relatively short window of opportunity, but remember that this is based on small pellets and microbes that have a very limited repair capability. Is it possible that some hardy strains could have evolved out on some of these larger asteroids? The more we examine these rocks, the more you must question the concept that these are simply rocks left over from the initial formation process. Recently, it has been determined that Ceres is an ocean world with seawater beneath its surface. Now, this research was conducted by Japanese researchers aboard the International Space Station, and the Japanese are no strangers to asteroids. In 2014, the Japanese Space Agency launched a mission to send a probe to study an asteroid. More than just study, they wanted to take samples and bring them back to Earth. In 2018, it finally arrived at the asteroid and spent a year and a half surveying and taking samples. In November 2019, it finally left the asteroid and should return to Earth with its geological samples on the 6th of December 2020. This sample was not simply collected from the surface, they used an impactor to excavate to obtain material from below the surface which was not exposed to space weathering. I'm not sure how connected these two missions are, but you would have to hope that they would at least test the sample to see if there was any surviving microbial life. So it looks like microbial life is capable of surviving the radiation environment of space for short periods of time, and that this may be long enough to at least allow some to hop from one planet to another. As planet Earth has shown us, life is able to persist in environments that we had previously considered uninhabitable, So is it so crazy to think that life could well be surviving out in the depths of space on these rocks which contain all the building blocks of life, including water? As always, be brave, be curious. The truth is waiting for us. Until next time.